Here is a great example of a three-part fracture of the clavicle, where we're going to show a limited incision technique to fix the clavicle. As you can see, this scar is done just inferior to the clavicle. I don't like making a scar on top of the clavicle due to irritation. We'll dissect carefully down, dissecting out the cutaneous nerves, and then I'll put a Hohmann retractor on either side of the clavicle and expose the main fracture site. You can see the nerve there that's always in the way. Once I've exposed one end, then I expose the other end, find the butterfly fragment, and as you can see, we clamp this together and put a temporary lag screw in to reduce the fracture. This then turns it from a three-part fracture into a two-part fracture, and you can see how we can reduce it and hold it before we put the plate on. I then do temporary cerclage fixation with 1 vicryl sutures that reduces the fracture in a temporary manner so that it holds it in a strong enough position that I can then put a plate easily on. So I normally use 1 or 2 1 vicryl sutures and tie them around that 2 fragments to reduce it. You can see how now it's reduced. Here's the plate. The plate is generally half the size of the cut that I'm using. And what I do is I dissect with an elevator on either side, just releasing on top of the clavicle so that I can slide the plate under the nerve and then on to the clavicle, first starting medially, and then I put the plate laterally. As we go, we then see that it sits on nicely. I've already pre-drilled the first hole, which goes through the most lateral, on the lateral screw hole on the medial side of the plate. So I put that in first. I then make sure with Hohmann retractors that the plate is sitting flush on the bone, and I fill with an elevator and pickups to make sure it's flat on bone. Then I drill those 2 more medial holes and put those screws in on this side and make sure that the plate is sitting flat on the medial aspect of the clavicle. These screws are often just locking screws or smaller screws so they don't take out the second cortex. I then put the clamp on the lateral side and then drill holes on the lateral side, making sure that the plate is flat on the bone. And as you can see here, it remains reduced. I first of all do the most medial, the lateral screws, and then go sequentially to the end of the plate until I have all 6 screws in place. I like to put 3 screws medial and 3 lateral, and here's the fixation shown. It does show that lag screw. I don't like to leave lag screws in adolescence, as I often take the plate out. So then I will suture that bony fragment in position, take the lag screw out, and as you can see, we've got excellent fixation just with the plate and the cerclage sutures. When closing the wound, I then put a cerclage suture around the plate and the bone and put that through the deltoid. It's important to reattach the deltoid to the anterior aspect of the clavicle and not to the trapezius, and also to protect the nerve and make sure that is not involved in the sutures. I then add some bone graft around the fracture site to help with healing. So as you can see, there's 2 cerclage sutures picking up the deltoid, which then gets reattached onto the anterior aspect of the glenoid, giving excellent soft tissue coverage. If you reattach the deltoid to the trapezius, the patient complains of neck pain. That's why it's important just to do it back to the anterior aspect of the clavicle. As you can see, this is done through about a 3.5 centimetre incision. I then do the fat and the skin. You can see they've left with a nice cut, and you can see by measurements here, it is just over 3.5 centimetres. This is the patient now at 1 week, and shows the movement and how much function he's got in his shoulder already. He's a lot more comfortable and very happy that he had his fix. This is him at 4 weeks. You can see his good range of motion and the function that's come back into his shoulder.